Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I'm a second career registered nurse focused on advanced illness, specifically in those that qualify for either palliative care or hospice care. Those are two separate services. I'm also a certified end-of-life doula through the International Doula Life Movement and one of their instructors in charge of their continuing education division. And I'm also working on the development of a 16-week, 48-hour course dealing with crucial end-of-life conversations based on my book, Crucial End-of-Life Conversations. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to visit. In this channel, we talk about issues related to death and dying. After all, we are all going to die. If we plan for birth and take birth seriously, should we not be doing the same for death and dying? If these are topics that you like to know more about, please consider subscribing and hitting the bell notification below. And if you like videos like this, please consider liking, as it really helps my small channel with the YouTube algorithm. Today's topic is going to be about what is palliative care and how it's different from hospice. This is going to be a subset of a continuing education session that I provided for students of the International Doula Life Movement, as well as welcomed guests who paid a very small fee to come and join us and participate in a live and interactive discussion. Before we get to today's topic, I like to engage all of my listeners and viewers in practicing one of the three pillars of building resilience. So when we talk about being able to be in dark places on very regular basis and avoiding burnout, avoiding falling into the pit of despair ourselves, I believe that that's by building resilience. For me, there are three pillars. The first pillar for me is my faith in Christ Jesus. The second pillar for many of you who have been watching, I've been working on in 2025 is forgiveness, which can be very difficult. And the third pillar, which I engage my viewers on, is gratitude. What are you grateful for? So what I'm grateful for is last week I had the opportunity to finally go to an orientation session for the Kentucky Medical Reserve Corps. I became a member in April of this year, but they did not have any training in Madison County where I live. It was only last week that they finally had a training session available for me to go and participate, and I am grateful. Not only did I learn more about the history and how the Corps falls underneath the Surgeon General from the federal level, but also, and this is wow, like you wouldn't have, like I couldn't have predicted this would be a good thing. Had I, I would have missed out if I wouldn't have went. Here, they've gone through a loss of all of their trainers for the most part. The majority of their trainers are no longer there. So they're seeking those who are willing, especially educators, to become certified as trainers. And so I raised my hand and said, I would like to become certified in order to be able to train to teach psychiatric first aid and trauma-informed care. I am schooled in those matters. I believe I could provide the training as is, but it's better to be certified than not. So I'm now on the list to be trained, train the trainer, and I'll take whatever they can throw at me in terms of training other volunteers. This is not a paid position. I'm not going to be paid by learning this. But however, number one, it'll help my end-of-life doula practice. It will help my RN concierge service practice, and it helps me be a better practitioner and provider of care. So, wow, I'm so grateful for that. I'm also grateful that I finally finished the last meaty chapter of the book for end-of-life care plans for doulas. And I'm going to be working on the conclusion, the appendices. I need to consider, am I going to be redoing chapter 15, which is fear of death, and 16? I have to double check what 16 is. But there's two chapters. I'm like, gee, do I need to add more care tables to it? But I'm so close to that publishing mark. And I made a decision towards the end of this past week. I'm not going to rush the print. I've never rushed the print, but I want to be very careful because this, of every book that I've written, this comes closest to my Dementia Care Essentials book, where when I eventually get it, right now I do it in Kindle format. So in Kindle format, without the conclusion, without the appendices, we're already 470 pages. If I put it in paperback format, which has, the margins are still narrow. I do half-inch margins, but we're probably looking at greater than 500 pages. If I were to do 6 by 9, we're probably 700-800 pages. I don't know what size yet, but I'm grateful that I'm on the running ground. This coming week, I'll be making a decision on chapter 15 and 16 for rewrites. I'll be doing the illustrations for all of the chapters, the conclusion, the appendices, and getting that finished up. So I'm looking probably to publish the week of August 18th, probably towards the end of that week. Not 100% certain. I want a quality product for all of you who are interested in this type of material. So thank you so much, each and every one of you. So the topic for today's video is palliative care. This is not going to be a full like master class, and so that you're aware, I use that term loosely. Like the 16-week class I'm in development with for my end-of-life professionals that's based on this book. That course is going to be a master class from a point of view. Because my goal for any book that I write that's nonfiction is to help you, the reader, master the topics. So in an hour, which was that continuing education session, or even if it was an hour and a half, to me, that's not enough to master. Now, I'm not gauging your intelligence. I'm not saying that to be demeaning in any way. It's just meaty stuff. So today I'd like to just go over tidbits from the class, And part of the reason for today's session, I so much appreciate Dr., and I'm hoping not to mispronounce Dr. Andy's last name. We've communicated via LinkedIn messaging. He endorsed my Mastering Hospice Eligibility book, and I have nothing but respect for Dr., and I believe it's Dr. R. Rwari, Arwari. This past weekend, he put out a post on LinkedIn. He's one of those unbelievably thoughtful, intelligent, knowledgeable person that doesn't post often, but when he does, it is impactful and meaningful. It's like, wow. So he posted about that we need to find a way to reframe the need to differentiate palliative care from hospice. And I'm going to re-say this. This is a quote. Quote, I hope that we can eventually find a way to reframe the need to differentiate palliative care from hospice. And then he goes on, all hospice care is palliative care, but not all palliative care is hospice. Dr. Andy, I cannot put enough words into how much appreciation I have for you and others like you. And I aspire, this is not jealousy, you're a role model. I aspire to be like you, to be among others out there sharing and promoting the words. I've run into this. I've been working on a project in Kentucky to raise awareness that palliative care, and we'll get into the meat as I'm going on, so please bear with me, how palliative care is necessary, that everybody should be getting it as early as possible who on a phrase, is eligible for it. Get it early. Be aware of it. and in my own journey for this. And I want to give a pause in terms of both the combination of a gratitude note and a thank you note to Matthew West. Matthew is a triage registered nurse for UK Health. And I apologize, Matthew, if you're watching this, if you're in Lexington or Richmond. I don't know the exact location of the office he is out of, but UK Health. And I have only thanks for you, Matthew. I called him on Monday of last week because I'm calling different places. You know, are you offering genuine palliative care? Because I know some places advertise hospice too. What are your services? What are your limitations? Do you provide them in the home? Do you provide them in the clinic? Where do your patients have to go in order to get them, or could they just be where they're at? And Matthew, I'm so grateful. He called me back, and he said, "Are you still interested?" Yes. And I teased him. I said, there's a singer named after you. In fact, it's one of my favorite singers, Matthew West. He's a Christian artist. And he goes, "No, but I wish I had his money." And but Matthew was kind enough to provide me a spreadsheet, massive spreadsheet covering all of Kentucky by county, by how it's dispersed, whether they do it in the home, who's part of the team, whether they have an inpatient unit. I cannot thank you enough, Matthew. If I Right now, this is a brand new business venture. If I had money, I'd be going here, Matthew, but I'm not in that position to even, I'll buy a coffee, I'll buy you a meal. But I'm not in a position to pay you what value this is. But I'm hoping, Matthew, and I'm hoping others who are taking similar endeavors, the value that we receive is the blessing that we're giving others. The value that we receive is the blessing that we're giving others. So let me go on, and I'm going to be bringing other parties into this picture. I already mentioned Dr. Andy. I want to mention another person who's doing a wonderful job as well. And I wish I could name them all. I wish I could name them all, but I want to highlight some. I want to highlight because I did mention you, Jennifer O'Brien, in my presentation that I did for my fellow end of life doulas. Jennifer O'Brien is the author of The Care Boss. She's also the author of the Hospice Doctor's Widow. So she put together a free PDF file. I'm going to be putting links in the description below, explaining the differences between hospice and palliative care. And I actually, giving full credit to Jennifer, I actually pulled some of her missed referral pieces to put in my presentation. And again, giving full credit to Jennifer. I really appreciate you, Jennifer, if you're watching. Um, but they're one of those that are out there, and I'm also going to be putting in the description below, and we will get into, so hold on tight. But I'll be putting in links: the Center to Advanced Palliative Care, the Get Palliative Care organization, as well as the MJHS Institute for Innovation in Palliative Care. That'll be in the description below. So I know I've taken a long time, and I've still not explained what the difference is. I understand that. Thank you for not being too mad at me. Thank you for being patient. Palliative care is providing comfort to reduce pain, to reduce grief, to eliminate preventable distress to those who have a high symptom burden, and they either need help with the high symptom burden, including distress, or they want to get a cure. And this is why it's so different from hospice, because hospice is you have to stop the cure. Hospice is, oh, you're on dialysis, you have to stop. Hospice says you have cancer, you can't get chemotherapy unless it's palliative, meaning that it's not to cure, it's only to reduce the symptom burden. That's rare. And even then, there's a lot of hospices who will say the words, but when they find out the cost involved, because Medicare pays a per day rate without regard to whatever the costs are, there's the good and bad with that. The bad with it is if the cost is too high, the hospice could say, not taking the case. Sorry, we're not the hospice for you. That happens more than you know. It's not that they're not eligible for hospice. It's just the cost may be too high. And somewhere along the line, there has to be funds. There has to be funds. So palliative care, when we talk about the word palliate, it means to provide comfort, to make one's pain less harsh. And for everybody watching this right now, whether as a doula or a social worker, a chaplain, a nurse, a friend, just a human being that's trying to make this world a better place, if you reduce somebody's grief level, if you reduce somebody's distress, if you took their mind off of the pain that they're in, maybe you gave them a back massage or sang them a song or told them a joke, you palliated them. In a way, you provided palliative care. So palliative care is reducing the symptom burden, even if other things are going on. And unlike hospice care, where the whole thing is 6 months or less, and I have a video where I talk about how the hospice prognosis calendar, we say 6 months or less, is not the traditional calendar. So when you talk about, well, Jimmy Carter was on 2 years, my neighbor on 4. I was brainstorming with a hospice nurse just the other day. We were going over what medications might help a particular case. I'm the geeky nerd who I love my meds. When I don't take that literally, I'm not on any. But we were brainstorming, and by the way, this is free. I'm the weird person. I don't know if I'm ever going to make money in the business. But so I'm brainstorming with this person. But here, the hospice prognosis calendar is not your 12-month calendar. It's not the calendar you have up on the wall. It's not a fiscal calendar. We have to, as a hospice agencies, have to frequently prove to the Center for Medicare Services, this person is still in a terminal state. State is like liquid, gas, solid. They're in a terminal state. They could die at any time, and they have a terminal prognosis 6 months or less. Hospice has to continually prove that to Medicare. You have too long a time period where they're not declining. The hospice provider should, from an ethical standpoint, in order to avoid Medicare fraud, discharge the person. Well, in palliative care, if they're operating under the genuine umbrella of palliative care, there's no discharge for getting better. There could be a discussion of, I believe we have your symptoms so well under control, we're going to put you on a consultation basis. We're going to check in on you in maybe a quarter or 6 months, and there'll come a period of time where you may not need palliative care. But it's not like hospice. You could be getting chemotherapy, not palliative radiation. You could be getting radiation, chemotherapy, immunotherapy. You could be on a heart transplant list, a lung transplant list. You could be getting dialysis and so on. Now, I wish we were coming to a close of this video. I wish we lived in a world of no fine print. I wish we did. There are barriers that I wish did not exist to palliative care. There are situations from a country perspective. I'm an introvert, but I'll get on with Facebook messaging and groups and chat and whatnot. And I'm the geeky nerd that does these research projects. And there are countries that don't have palliative care. There are countries that have palliative care that don't have hospice. There are places that have perfected palliative care, and palliative care has been around longer than hospice. But in the United States, and I'm in the U.S. and Kentucky, palliative care it's behind the times. It is literally behind the times. And the example I'm going to give to you is what I've been running into here in Kentucky. So I like giving real life. Here's what's happening, because we are in the real world. Sunday, August 3rd, I'm in a caregiver group meeting. Some of you already know this if you watch previous videos. And every caregiver, there was a family member, every caregiver there everyone would have fit for palliative care, every last one. So this is part of the reason why I'm doing this project. And Matthew West, I cannot thank you enough, but I still have to get answers from other parties. I reached out, thanks to the Center to Advance Palliative Care. I found out Kentucky has a council that works to advance palliative care. And I reached out to Jennifer, and I don't want to kill Jennifer's, oh my word, it's a dual last name. I don't want to kill her last name, but she's the program administrator for the council for Kentucky. And so she's reaching out to try to get me more information on that. But what I'm finding out in Kentucky is two things. And I don't know what it's like in your state or your geographic area. Please, please, please become part of the solution by researching your area. Research your area. What I'm finding out is that there's a handful of states that are certificate of need states. I don't want to get into a political debate for this because I don't know whose good idea that it was for this. I don't know if it was a Republican or a Democrat, but me personally, and I'm not a violent person, I'd like to get a Nerf baseball bat and beat them over until I got exhausted and I fell over. Because this certificate of need, when I researched it, it is among the most harmful things that you can create in a state. It is harmful because it violates human rights and civil rights. It is a violation. It's like, the more I research it, is like, are you kidding me? Who came up with this idea? And I'm researching. And so what a certificate of need is, I'm going to give you two different examples. One's from Matthew West, and another one is from my own research. So from my own research, when it came into facility-based, I'm going to deal with it right now in Madison County, Kentucky. So Madison County, Kentucky has Hospice Care Plus, they have an inpatient unit in Richmond, Kentucky. So, and I'm not saying as I give you this example, I want to be very clear. I, Peter Abraham, have zero plans to start a hospice agency. I have zero plans to go and be involved in the creation of an inpatient unit. And I want to give you the fine print that if God calls me to, I'm probably going to go, God, you have a sense of humor. You realize I said to people, I said, I'm not going to do this. So I'm just giving you that disclaimer. But as far as I know, God doesn't have plans for me. So here, because Hospice Care Plus has this inpatient center facility in Richmond, and they serve X counties, and I don't know all that's like 6 or 7. I don't have them memorized. If another party were to go and say, I want to build an inpatient facility, and let's say it's in Estill County, that's one I do know, they'd actually have to go before the government to prove that there's a need for a second inpatient unit that close. Even though Estill's in a different county than Madison County, they'd have to prove. And on top of that, talk about a monopoly, Hospice Care Plus, and I'm not trying to pick on them, this is Kentucky-wide. Hospice Care Plus would have the right to have a representative go to the government, say, nope, we are barely making ends meet. Don't read in, I'm not saying, there's no quotes. This is my imagination. We're barely making ends meet. If you allow this, you're killing our business. We'll be out of business. Don't let them come in. No offense to Hospice Care Plus or other providers. Competition is what drives innovation. Competition is what helps with price control. Competition is what pushes higher quality. Because if the other people are getting 5-star reviews, you want to find out what are they doing right in copycat success. You want to find out what are they doing that's working and copy it. If you actually are a monopoly because of crony capitalism, there's no reason to improve. there's no reason to get better. So that's one case from a facility standpoint and I mentioned Matthew West. And so I call and I say, and this is about doing your own homework. I talk about UK Health palliative care. Their palliative care is focused on one, cancer diagnosis. So no offense, Matthew, it's not genuine palliative care, because genuine palliative care is symptom burden driven, not diagnosis driven. It is symptom burden driven, not diagnosis driven. I'm not saying the diagnosis is not involved, but just like hospice is prognosis driven, palliative care is symptom burden driven. So UK Health, cancer and life limiting. I appreciate everyone. That's also, I don't know how to word this. Please comment below if there's a better way to word what I'm about to say. Please, I beg of you. But to me, that is a violation of the principles of palliative care, because palliative care does not look at prognosis. That's hospice job. Palliative care is all symptom burden driven without regard to prognosis. They could have decades to live. That's the whole benefit of palliative care. So I'm saying this to you to encourage you to research your geographic area, because your geographic area, you might be coming back and saying, Peter, this organization here, they're the cat's meow. They're the cream of the crop. They're the honey. They're Winnie the Pooh. They're that honey tree. They're symptom burden driven versus prognosis driven. That they have a program to help those who cannot afford care. They treat their staff well, and so on and so forth. So, coming to the close of the landing, palliative care, in the most genuine sense, symptom burden driven. You want to prolong life. Therefore, it's not life limiting. You want to prolong life. Therefore, you're getting curative treatments or considering it. And I'm not saying that you have to, because in the genuine definition of palliative care, it could be 100% symptom management. And to be very crystal clear, symptoms are not always medically managed. You could be struggling with anticipatory grief. You could be struggling with emotional distress. You could be struggling with, I have all these doctor visits, and who do I go to in what order? And the neurologist is saying this, and the heart doctor is saying this. Genuine palliative care takes all that over and acts as that conductor running the show, if it's genuine palliative care. So I did reach out to Dr. Andy. I gave Dr. Andy my business phone number, because I do get a lot of spam calls on both numbers, but I'm more inclined to pick up my business number. I did give Dr. Andy, here's my business number, my personal phone number, I did give my personal cell, and here's my email address. And for any other persons, please comment below. I do believe my channel does give you an email address that you could use. I'm interested in expanding the awareness of palliative care, the genuine model, the true model. And so I'll be putting in links in the description for several resources about palliative care. I encourage you to become part of the solution. I encourage you to be aware of what's offered in your geographic area. I encourage you that if you have friends and family members that are struggling, that they would rather die because they can't deal with the symptoms, they are candidates for palliative care. And there's actually research studies out there that if you get palliative care early, you reduce the desire for medical aid in dying, you reduce the push for it. The people live longer, they have less anxiety, and they transition easier when it is time for hospice. Be part of the solution. I thank you for your time. Take care and bye.